Something's going down in Scottish football at the moment. The league has of course been dominated by two teams for years and years. However, that's where we come in, and that's where Tony Bloom and data come in. So Tony Bloom is the owner of Brighton, and Brighton have shot up the table using data. He owns this company, Jamestown Analytics. They have been working with Hearts already, but now that's getting cranked up because he's got himself a big share of Hearts. So we're going to take over Hearts of Midlothian to try and break the domination of the big two. And we're going to do it with no attributes and just solely relying on data. Right, so today's task is pretty simple. We need to break that old firm dominance. That's not as easy as it seems, because as you can see from the past winners table, it's been Celtic and Rangers since 1984, and we haven't won a league title since 1960. So a great result for me would simply to be getting that top two and sandwiching between them. If we can push on and get a league title, my lord. So welcome to Hearts. We know it's going to be a big task, but we're up for it. So having landed at the club, well, the first thing I notice is the squad is pretty big. I mean, they've already got 5 goalkeepers in the first team squad, so we probably need to trim it down a bit, if anything. There are, of course, a few standout players. Shankland will be leading the attack. He's got good finishing. And veteran goalkeeper Craig Gordon, at 40 years old, is the best of the bunch. So recently, when I've been doing these Moneyball videos, I start to make transfers straight away from day one. But I'm going to take a different approach this time and give them all a chance and not sign anybody in Season 1. However, there's a number of young players in the squad, such as Musa, who I do see promise in, and my coaches like him as well. Now him, along with a few others, will be loaned out to gain experience, and hopefully they'll make an impact next season. So we're not going to make any transfers Season 1, however, we are going to build a shortlist from day one to try and get talents ready for next season. And we're going to do that by sending our scouts all over the world. Then with the scout recommendations, we can build the shortlist. However, at the minute, my staff team is tiny. I need to build that first and foremost. So whenever I go for scouts, such as new scout Alan Roche, I do it based on one main factor, and it is where their knowledge is around the world. You can see here he's got France, Belgium, Spain, but even more interestingly, he's got knowledge of Africa, in the Ivory Coast and Senegal. Similar story for Henny Diret, the next scout. He's got unreal knowledge of Europe and many other places as well. He'll be very handy. The final scout I brought in was Aaron Lejean. I wanted him for his knowledge of the US, both North America and South as well. So once they were signed, I was able to set up their recruitment focuses based on their areas of expertise. For example, Henny Diret, the scout with knowledge of basically everywhere, and I've sent him to all of Northern Europe and then focusing deep on Belgium and Finland. And already he's starting to come up trumps, so I can build the shortlist. We've also got Scout Alan Roche focusing in on Africa, and the recommendations from him are starting to come in as well. And the reason I'm setting that up so aggressive at the start is because we've got a pretty decent transfer budget of 4.5 million. So I need to build a tactic for this team, and the squad are pretty well rounded, but there is a lot of wingers, so it's oozing a 4-4-2 variation. So I've created a 4-4-2, but it's a kind of funky one with some interesting roles. We've got what seems to be a pretty standard back four, with one fullback more attacking than the other. That's because in front of him he's got a wide playmaker, a player that will drift around and spend a lot of the time in field. Therefore, the fullback will overlap him and provide the width. On the other side, I've got a defensive winger. Now, defensive wingers aren't defensive like the name suggests. They spend a lot of the time up here pressurising the opposition fullback. If they win it back, then they can cross the ball in. Central midfield, we've got a holder who will win the ball back and one more advanced to back up the strikers. Up front, the combination of a pressing forward who will pressurise the defence and an advanced forward who will hopefully be the main goal getter. Mentality wise, I'm going to start an awful lot of the matches with an attacking mentality. Obviously, when we come to Rangers and Celtic, that'll probably drop down to cautious. You'll notice I've only got a few players selected so far. Craig Gordon, the experienced goalkeeper. Right back, Christian Bodge-Grevnik. Reason for that is the only one I've got. Defensive midfielder, Cameron Devlin. When you're playing this way, it's always hard to decide who starts when you don't know the players. However, when you look at his abilities, he's got several in excellent range in terms of bravery, tackling, work rate. He just oozes defensive midfielder. The next thing you do is you go to your coach report, and then you can just have a little look at the pros. You can see he's already a good Premiership player, so he's going to be fine, and he's got a lot of pros that fit the bill, including consistency, relish in big matches. He just looks like an ideal starter. The final thing you want to look at is your squad comparison over here, and you can see that he compares well to the other options. And one last thing on the squad comparison tool, if you go up here, select the drop down, you can compare him to defensive midfielders or any other position you're thinking of playing him in. And the final player that's guaranteed starting is Lawrence Shankland. I looked at him quickly before. You can see his finishing stands out an absolute mile. And again, when you go to the coach report, he's just our best striker by an absolute mile. The rest of the positions I'll try and decide through pre-season, which I'm already deep into, but it's fair to say there will be a large degree of rotation in the early season. In an ideal world, this is how the tactic looks. You can see the two central midfielders there holding their position. This guy will break forward. Now up here we've got the defensive winger. Interestingly, down here though, wide playmaker, fullback on attack. So he's going to overlap him at some point in this move. As the ball comes across now, you can see Forrest, the wide playmaker, drifting inside. And here goes my fullback on attack to supply the final cross. The league season began with a great performance away at Livingston, where we created an absolute bucket full of chances. Our first big test came in the second game of the season as we played Rangers at home and got the early lead through Musa. And shockingly on 50 minutes we took a 2-goal lead as the defensive winger whipped it across and Shankland was there. Rangers got one back on 51. But in a really tight match we held out and take the win 2-1. What followed was a slightly disappointing home draw against St Mirren, but we were finding our feet in this tactic really quickly. And in the next match against Kilmarnock, Shankland up front got himself a hat-trick. Then our next big test came with Celtic coming to Tynecastle, and we shocked the Old Firm again with the right back once again supplying the finish for Braga as we eke out a 1-0 win. In fact, the start of the season had been unreal. The only team to stop us in our flow was Rangers as we lost 2-1 at Ibrox, a game in which new Rangers striker Diego Costa scored the first. Yep, Diego Costa's at Rangers. But 12 games in, so far so good, we're sitting second in the league just behind Celtic. We got to the semi-finals of the League Cup as well, but Rangers have just knocked us out. Up until the midpoint of the season, we were playing really well. There was a couple of annoying defeats like this one to St Mirren and another to Dundee United. But overall, we were performing really well and I was getting a good idea now of what players are going to stay with us throughout this journey. For example, striker Lawrence Shankland has been ridiculously good. I mean, absurd. First of all, he scored 30 times in 23 matches. And that's reflected in his data chart with the massive headliner being goals at 1.31. I don't think I'll find that anywhere else in this entire database. So most of the time, my first 11s looked like this. We knew he was going to start, being the only out-and-out right-back at the club. Borch Grevnik, 7 assists so far in 23 matches, good overall record. You can see he's concentrating on attack because the defensive side of the game is kind of non-existent. But that's why we've got the defensive midfielder on his side of the pitch. This is Cameron Devlin and he's doing all the dirty work, letting all the other players bomb forward. He's winning plenty of tackles, he's not giving the ball away, and he's progressing the passing nicely. At centre-back, Craig Halkett has been solid as a rock, winning a bunch of headers and winning the ball back. So overall, at the midway point of the season, I really can't argue. We've played a couple more matches than them, but we are sandwiched right in between Celtic and Rangers. Right team, I won't lie, that's gone better than I thought, but what we can do now is, with a few months of data behind us, I can start to judge my players to push on for this season, and I can start to see which positions we will need to strengthen in the summer, so we can potentially start building a thorough shortlist. So we can now look to replace some of these players in the summer. And it may be harsh because the team are performing well, but we need to push on if we're to break this dominance. Pressing forward, Braga up front with Shankland is just not scoring goals. He's only scored 2 times in 21 starts, and you can see that there. Defensively he's doing great, but I just need a bit more. The key position out wide is a wide playmaker. He's kind of getting lost in the shuffle bit, Alan Forrest. He's only got 5 goal contributions in 25 matches, and I'm not really sure what he's doing. Now, it may be that we could change the role, potentially matching up a defensive winger, but I don't really need to because the fullback's playing so well, so it could be a change of personnel. At centre-back, Frankie Kent is just not playing as well as Halkett. He's kind of getting overshadowed big time. Volante is a tricky one as well. At the minute, I've got Callum Neuvenhoff playing there. Now, Volante is a bit of a combination of an attacking midfielder and a defensive midfielder. In some aspects, he's doing pretty well, but in some he's not. And his goal and assist ratio, I'm just not getting enough goal contributions from 19 matches, so that might be a position we look at. Bit of an unsung hero has been the defensive winger, Sander Carton. He's got 8 assists, 4 goals, so 12 goal contributions in 22 matches, and you can see he puts pressure on defence because he's got 9 yellow cards and 1 red. As far as his data, I'm going to class him as an attacking midfielder, but you could also class him as a defensive midfielder as well, but we'll look at him as an attacking midfielder. His expected assists are great, he's getting plenty of shots away. I'd like to see more dribbles, but maybe that'll change if I change him to a normal winger. Overall though, team for the rest of the season is set in place, they're looking good, and we're still not going to sign anybody yet. So it's this point where the scouting becomes even more crucial because we're planning for the end of the season and building that shortlist. And on that, when you've got your scouting range as world, you will have things pop up into your inbox such as this, asking if you want to scout random competitions in random countries you may not normally keep an eye on, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And it's already thrown up a couple from the African Super League there. You can see Abubakar Nazir, he's on my shortlist. Overall, I'm very happy with the way the recruitment focuses are looking, and it's helped me build a pretty substantial shortlist already. Into the second half of the season, we got some big wins, including a 2-1 away win at Celtic. But we did get some annoying defeats as well that we should have done better at, including this random humbling by Dundee. A game that might have convinced Craig Gordon to finally call it a day at 41 because he's retiring at the end of the season. That being said, overall though, the second half of the season was fine. Got to the Championship group, and we finished the season in third position, behind Rangers and way behind runaway title winners Celtic, who gained 100 points. However, if you do look at it closely, you will see we are comfortably the best of the rest, finishing a whopping 17 points clear of fourth placed St Mirren. And it looks even better when you consider that after a pretty comfortable route through the Scottish Cup, we make the final against Rangers coming up. So can we get a bonus piece of silverware in our first season in Scotland? My big issue is both my starting centre-backs and defensive midfielder are all suspended or injured. My lord, this game was a drab affair. 0-0 going into extra time, then Rangers finally took the lead through Max Aarons. However, my boys get the equaliser in the 113th minute thanks to defensive wingers Cross and Shankland there again. So it's heading to penalties, it's 120th minute, our mistake from the throw. Goes to Ridvan. Are you kidding me? So close to a dream first season by getting a trophy, but the good thing is we have had a good season, so there is a nice basis to build on. And now the fun part, we can start making moves in this transfer market using Mr. Tony Bloom's analytic approach to improve this squad and push on. And we've got quite a bit to work with. Those players you see in the starting 11 are the ones I'm definitely happy with. There might be one or two more, but 6 out of the 11 is not bad, so I'm looking at 5 positions I definitely want to strengthen. I literally can't improve on Shankland up front. At this level, 43 goals in 43 matches. Just outstanding. He definitely needs a partner though, that's one we're going to look at. On the wing, we need competition for Carton, but he definitely will start next season. And I'm very happy with central midfielder Devlin. He's just a nasty man in that central midfield, exactly what we need. Now right back's an interesting one. Borj Grevnik, great, 14 assists all season, but he does need competition. And I need a centre back partner for the excellent Craig Halkett. That is outstanding, he's even a threat going forward from corners. So notepads at the ready, this is what I'm looking for. A brand new defender who will match up well with Halkett, competition for both full-back positions right and left. A new goalkeeper, central midfielder, I want a box-to-box style midfielder to back up the strikers, a wide playmaker or a wide midfielder, we may change the role there, and definitely a striker who can take some of the pressure off Shankland to score some goals. And this is where all that prep work, setting up those recruitment focuses and building this shortlist should, in theory, come in handy for Season 2. So going into Season 2, the goal was simple, improve on last season's performance. I've identified the gaps in the team that I'm looking to improve, and building that shortlist has came up trumps because we've got some big time targets now. I've got bids in for 6 or 7 players. So a strike partner for Shankland was a priority. One option I've gone for is Sharani Zuberu. So he's 24 years old, used mostly off the bench by his club last season, but he still managed 10 goals, and as you can see from his data chart, he gets his shots away and he scores a lot of goals and contributes assists. He could be the perfect foil for Shankland. Currently playing for Slovan Bratislava. He's an out of contract player, so it's an absolute no risk move. I'm also looking for players for both wings, a playmaker option and potentially someone to put pressure on Khartoum. Sami Castello covers both bases, he can play either side. Now he's currently playing in Malaysia with Johor and he's had a good season, but the thing with Castello is he's got good pedigree. He used to play for AC Milan amongst other teams, loads of pros, already a standout for what we've got. Another option will be Hugo Palacios, a 27-year-old winger. This season from an attacking standpoint he's had a good overall season with plenty of assists. And if you remember, that was the big slight against Alan Forrest. He's had a good season but not contributing as much as he could from an attacking standpoint. Also looking for a midfield partner for Devlin in central midfield. And believe it or not, this has led me to the UAE. This is Azajon Janiev. He's 26 years old and he's had a good time over there this season with 9 assists and 6 goals. And if you look at him from a defensive standpoint, really good, and an attacking standpoint as well, putting the numbers in. Again, he's out of contract. The perfect option could be Simon Alexander Santos Langbo. Now he's had 28 appearances this season, 4 goals. His data chart tells me he hasn't been the most attacking defender, but defensively pretty solid. What appeals the most is though that he can play both positions and even jump into centre back if needed. I'm also keeping an eye on the development centre because Hearts do have a great youth system, including the outrageous 15-year-old Alfie Hutchinson, who's already valued between 650 and 6.6 million. But like a lot of these players, it's probably a year or two early, but they would be a great long-term save if you're looking for one. But we'll keep an eye on them to see if they can contribute to the squad at some point. So we had a hell of a time with work permits, but everybody got given one. Fantastic. Including the late signing of 22-year-old centre-back Marvel. And with all this going on, the scouts were still recommending me random players such as Eduardo Aguirre, who plays for Athletic San Luis. And striker Lawrence Shankland only went and won the Adidas Golden Shoe as well. Holy moly. His outstanding season has seen his value rocket to 17.5 to 19 million. It'll be interesting to see if anybody comes in for him. So it's important when doing this style of save that when players come up, you add them to the shortlist. Even if you've already recruited, keep an eye on them and see how they do. You want to keep that shortlist strong, and as you can see from mine, I've got a rake of A+ A players, so we'll see how they do for another season to see if they maintain form for 2 seasons rather than just 1. We're in mid-June now and some of our signings are getting confirmed. Remember I talked about Marvel? Well, the scouts absolutely loved him. Top speed allows him to pace players over longer sprints, and then his squad comparison puts him even ahead of Craig Halkett. His history is interesting. He started at Real Madrid, actually played 6 games for them in La Liga before joining Leganes last season. Great season, we pick him up on a free. Craig Gordon retired, but I'd replaced him with 2 players. First, Venezuelan international Moises Ramirez. I was told by my scouts I had to sign this man, and you can see why. And another free transfer in Angus Gunn. I've got 2 good goalkeepers now competing for that number 1 spot. Going into the new season, the pre-season odds had us in 3rd, but at 50 to 1. That is wild how far behind Celtic and Rangers they think we are. Financially, we're in a good spot with 17 million in the bank. It's given us a really good transfer budget if we need to make any last-minute signings. With players continuing to leave, we've made a decent amount of money now. More of our players came through the door on July the 1st. It means the team looks pretty strong going into the new season. I think it's better than last season, so it bodes well. And the last thing to do before the season gets started is to have a little cheeky look at the free transfer market. This is where we can't judge it on player data because they haven't got any, because they've just been released. And a lot of the players like Patrick Bamford have not even played last season. So it would be a bit of a punt, but you can do it on a combination of judging on ability and asking your scout for a scout report. But there is a few there that definitely tempt me. And annoyingly, Celtic were doing the same thing by offering Luis Suarez a contract. 37-year-old Suarez from Inter Miami might be on his way to the SPL. I tried to hijack it. Yeah. Instead, I bowed to temptation and I've picked up Patrick Bamford. I see it as a no-risk move. He'll probably be injured half the time, but his wages weren't that bad. Right, a big summer in terms of transfers. Some very Brighton-esque signings from all over the world, some obscure nations and leagues. But very happy with the squad now. All that's left to do is see how we do in Season 2. Can we close that gap? So we started the season well and 2 new signings gave us a win over Rangers. Second game of the season we beat Rangers at Ibrox thanks to Segunde Valente Ganiev and striker Bamford in the 93rd minute. The risk of signing Bamford looked like it was going to pay off as he scored 4 times in the Europa League against Lask. So far this season he's been pretty damn good, scoring 12 times in 29 matches and an overall striker performance to die for. The start of the season was really good. We went undefeated all the way up until late September. We even had a game against Juventus at Tynecastle, equalising in the 94th minute through Shankland. But those extra Europa League games were starting to catch up with us a little bit. Following the loss to Newcastle, we lost against rivals Celtic and very frustratingly away at Dundee. However, on the way to the midpoint of the season, we have turned things around really well, including going to Celtic Park and beating them 3-1 with 2 goals from Bamford. And that means at the halfway point of the season, we are second in the table. We are splitting Rangers and Celtic, but it's very, very tight this time. Problem is we're getting some big injuries, and specifically to our fullbacks. Botchgrevnik looks like he's going to miss the season for 8 months. And defensive winger Cartum, who can also play fullback, he's going to miss 3 months. So I've got a bid in for Adam Anderson, either fullback position or defensive winger, with a heap of pros. And I'm also capitalising on the Japanese league season ending by signing Shogo Asada on a free transfer. Here's a guy who can play centre back or left back, and he has absolutely excelled this season, so he's going to come in on a free transfer. Now I don't have a lot of cover for Ganiev and Devlin in central midfield, so I've got a bid in for Colombian Robert Meyer for 600,000 to cover in defensive midfield. Speaking of defensive midfield, Ganiev, who we brought in to give us a more attacking outlet from Secunde Volante, has done just that, with 12 assists and 8 goals in his 30 matches. And we've got the attacking output we wanted from our playmaker from Castello, who's got 0.33 assists, 7 assists, 5 goals this season. Do you know what? This could be a big opportunity. It's not often you get into Season 2 in Scotland and Celtic and Rangers are kind of flailing around a bit, especially Celtic. We need to capitalise. We're into the second half of the season, and unfortunately the Europa League proved a bit too much for us. We weren't humiliated, only 3 defeats, but we just drew too many matches. But the big news was the momentum we were generating in the second half of the season. We only lost 1 match to Rangers, and this took us into the Championship group where we battered Celtic 3-1. Zaberi scored twice there. I've used him as a bit of an impact player, but he scored 13 goals in 13 starts. He's done exactly what he did at his old club, but for us. And to be honest, he's had to, because Shankland has just dropped off a little bit. He still scored 25 goals this season, but he's nowhere near as prolific as he was last year. And Bamford? You guessed it, he started to get injured and he missed 2 months of the season with a knee ligament injury. He's on his way back now. He has scored 15 in 39, so he's been a good foil for the front guys. When my first 11 played, it looked a bit like that. One of the signings of the season's got to be Santos Lingbo, who's came in with 14 assists from fullback. Thank you, Indonesian knowledge. And the player we brought in January, Anderson, has been insane as an attacking left wing back. Not forgetting goalkeeper Moises Ramirez, who got voted in as the best goalkeeper in the league, and you can see why. I mean, he was also a hero in the Scottish Cup semi-final. He saved 2 penalties for us against St Mirren, as we hit up our second successive Scottish Cup final. So we've made it into our second successive Cup final. It's not Rangers this time, it's Celtic. And then, after 29 minutes, off the ref trotted. 5 hours later he came back with a decision. Shankland stepped up and hammered it home. Celtic have got some side now though, and on 57 minutes they equalised through Sealamakers, who they got from Milan. But on the 89th minute we capitalised with pressure on the defence, and Bamford went through and gave us a famous victory as we take down the Scottish Cup. But let's talk about the league campaign, because this insane run has meant something pretty special. The goal of this save was to break up the big 2. Can you believe your eyes when you see this? Top 3, all on identical points, 83. It goes down to the final game of the season. We've scored as many goals as Celtic, but we've conceded more than the other 2 teams. Don't let this end this way, please. We've probably got the toughest match of the 3 as well, as we play Aberdeen away from home. So it's the big decider. We go against Aberdeen. Castello, like he has done so much this season, provides the key pass, and Shankland put us in front. In the second half, we carried on the onslaught. We win 2-0, but so do Rangers and Celtic. As the season finishes with 3 teams tied on 86 points, Celtic take it on goal difference. I mean, we've got the Scottish Cup, I should be happy. We're level on points with Celtic and Rangers, and we still finish behind them. What? It's hard to know what to say to the boys. They've been absolutely fantastic. We're basically in the top 3 all season, and late in the season we led the league and nearly took it. That 3-1 defeat was the only thing that stopped us getting on top of the old firm. Now, if I do brush myself down and carry this on and try and break the old firm after that disappointment, there are some transfers ready to come in. I just need to take my shell-shocked ass away for a while and have a little think.